Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Learning Modular Conversations. And this time around, my guest is Cynthia Mulleron, better known to most of you as DJ CherishTheLuv. Cherish, so happy to have you here with us today. Um,
Ah, so glad to be here. So grateful.
yeah, I met Cherish through Trovarsi's Modulation Lab Patreon channel, and we just have hit it off. She's quickly become one of my favorite people in the world because she's been through a lot of experiences to get here, and we have some similar ideas and approaches about how do you deal with electronic music and how do you humanize what you're doing. You're dealing with machines, but how do you make it a more human experience that more of you get through the machine? But first, for people who are not too experienced with the background of Cherish, people see DJ and go, "Oh, well, I already have you pigeonholed as exactly what you do and how you got here." And you've had a much longer and winding path to get here, and you do so many different things other than just DJing. So give a quick introduction of how you got here.
Yeah,
What all are you doing
that's
these days?
that's fair if you're going to think I'm a DJ because I keep calling myself DJ. And yeah, but I have been a professional DJ for over 10 years, but that is not what I graduated out of high school, college with. I was previously a professional graphic designer, so I was in the visual arts, and had one of those epic moments of career change, and that was 2008. I had a head injury. I think about it now because we're in 2021. And, when you have a head injury, it's like you don't have to make it out, and you don't have to heal. And some people don't. And somehow I did. And what I was doing was I was on a longboard in Sweden back with my then husband. And of course, I was not wearing a helmet because I'm way too cool for that. And as I was going down a hill, I remember being at the top of the hill and going like, okay, we can do this. And there's this voice that said, this hill does not have your name on it. And it was as loud as that. I heard it like right here. And then another voice kicked in that was like, well, we got to hurry because people are waiting. And I was like,
Yeah.
this guilty conscience voice or something. So, of course, I listened to that voice. I'm starting to go down the hill on this sweet longboard. I blink and open my eyes. All I see is green grass. And I'm like, whew, wow, what happened? And I turn this way and I see the hill, and my husband was running in slow motion, like, and I was like, whoa. And I see him trip and he's in the air like this. And I'm looking, going like, whoa. So I turn back where I was facing, and I'm realizing I'm sitting with my legs crossed on the grass. Road is behind me. I look down at my hands and I see that they're bloody. I was like, oh man, I still have the scars today. And I looked down and I was like, they're pooling up with blood. Like, oh, I fell. Okay. Then I realized the blood was coming from my face also. It's like dripping down from my face into my hands. And then I realized my four front teeth are gone. So that's why my teeth are like so, because I bought them. So he saw me hit my head 3 times on the road at a really good speed. I had a hole in my head this big. Broke my shoulder, broke my knee, busted my teeth, road rash all over my face. It was terrible. But the thing that I didn't realize I had injured was my head. So for the next 2 years, I was recovering from what was called post-concussive syndrome. And in those first 3, maybe up to 4 months of the head injury and the therapy and so on and so forth, I didn't realize I had this like high functioning amnesia. So I lost the connection with my husband. I eventually divorced him. I just like didn't understand who he was anymore in my home. I couldn't do my graphic design job anymore. I couldn't connect with my family. My mom has hair as white as paper, and I could not remember her hair ever being black. So I started having lots of identity scramblings in me and a lot of anxiety. Started going to cognitive behavioral therapy to do all these tests to respark my memories and so on. Like I'd go to weddings and not recognize family, but they'd recognize me. I start and nothing's working. Like you ask me what school I went to, and I just could not answer. And eventually I came home and was so frustrated, turned on the radio and heard this Paul Anka song, Lonely Boy, and suddenly I was like in grammar school in a station wagon and had a memory come back from when I was a kid.
Oh.
And I realized that the therapy that was missing from Mount Sinai and the hospitals I was at was music. They were not offering music therapy. So the music was bringing me back to who I was. And I was like, oh my God. So I went on Napster, LimeWire, stole all the music I possibly could steal. Then I'm listening to Depeche Mode, Erasure, and so on. And suddenly I'm remembering I'm in high school. I'm remembering concerts. I'm remembering what I liked. I'm remembering what I liked to wear, what I'd like to eat. And then here I was, like, okay, but I still can't do my job. And I was living off of savings. And I realized, okay, let me take these iPods, take them to these cafes here in the East Village in New York City. And I told them, can I just play music? Because it's part of my therapy. And they're like, oh, you want a DJ? And I was like, no, I'm not a DJ. I just have iPods. And they're like, okay, DJ. Yeah, you can do this night on whatever. And I would just stand there and play music and just kind of do it for me. And people were liking it. And they would ask me to come back. And they said, well, we got to pay you. And I felt so guilty because I was like, it's for me. So I told them, fine, pay me a penny. Pay me your prettiest penny out of the cash register. I have an envelope of pennies from those first gigs of me DJing. Then eventually one of the coffee shops was like, we have to pay you. Can we give you $25 for the whole night? And I was like, okay, fine. And because I had this different way of being there at the booth, people would come up to me and talk to me and get to know the story of why I was doing this. I get interviewed and so on. And suddenly people were calling me DJ because I was like providing music to them. Then I was asked to do some music support for TED Talks, and this one particular TED Talk was created by Nile Rodgers, and I became the DJ for his foundation. So then people were like, do my wedding, and then my whole DJ career launched from there.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, it's a really nutty story, but that is exactly what happened.
But it started with you just asking, can I do this, rather than sitting in the shadows and waiting for an opportunity to come to you or something like that.
That's how scary it was. It's like I was reaching for the healing wherever I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was learning to listen to myself in a way that, because obviously if I didn't listen to myself, I would seriously get screwed up, smash my head on the ground, lose my teeth, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought me back to this exquisite kind of tabula rasa, like, just, I don't know what to do, so where do I go from here? And I had realized it was triggering this same like PTSD thing, like through COVID, when all the gigs dried up, everything, our like kind of musical identity is not performing, and so on. We're like, well, what do we do from here? So once I started to realize, okay, I was DJing and playing music out, I realized I need to make my own music. So I went on Craigslist, looked for a piano, found an old church piano this guy was selling for $300, bought it. He brought it to my place. I sat in front of it, was like, all right, let me go to YouTube and learn how to play piano. Suddenly I'm playing ACE chords and I was like, oh my God, I know how to play piano.
Oh.
And I didn't remember I knew how to play the piano, but it was like still in me. I called my mom and I was like, Mom, do I play the piano? And she's like, since you were 5.
Oh, wow, you're kidding. And you've forgotten that experience.
You know what the thing is, you don't know. So emotional to me. You don't know what you don't realize you don't know. Sometimes you just like go through life and we're doing this like constant, like, what does the new day bring to us and so on. And sometimes we go through a trauma and it just like some parts of it get locked away. Music keeps unlocking these things for me, like through life, if you're open to it, and you're not afraid of it. Whew, I get chills because like that was such a moment for me to realize like I had so much music in me and I didn't have to keep stealing it from the outside world and like accessing it outside of me. And the music that was in me, whether I was going to be humming or whatever, just jamming, was super healing. I started to do work at hospice and bringing music to patients and then working with kids to try to help people tap into that. And that's why this topic, humanizing electronica, is so important, especially in this time where I can't think of a single person who isn't having stress from what's going on right now and experiencing anxiety and depression and frustration and, gear confusion and so on. And so that's why I think this talk is super valuable. And I really am so grateful to you, Chris, for opening up this discussion. It means so much. And people who are listening, I'm sure they're going to take something away from it.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought up this topic because it's something I really, struggle with a lot inside music. I think we all go through this learning curve of like, oh, first I have to learn how to play the instrument, and I'm going to do it by imitating the people that I like to listen to. And then there's this next level of how do you actually make it your own music?
Yeah.
And how do you express yourself, And we were talking about this a little bit actually on Modulation Lab yesterday, where some venues or gigs, there's this expectation. This is a techno gig. The audience expects techno. All of you are to play techno tonight. And how do you stand out as being an artist rather than being another techno player? And how do you humanize, get yourself into it, for example?
That's why we're talking about this.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, how about you? Do you feel you have connected on a human level to your electronica?
I feel, I have these interesting conversations with my own head when I'm making music, because there's part of my brain that says, we're going to go make a song like this. And then part of the way through it, my brain takes over and says, we're going to go this direction. This is what we're going to make today, this week. And for several months, I fought it. It's like, this isn't what I intended to make. It's a fraud, or it's not me, or it's not, something's wrong with this because this isn't what I intended to make. And it took me a long time to realize that what I was making was what was in my head. It was me coming out, not my idea of what I should be doing. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to get over this idea of like, people have expectations of what I should do versus my brain saying, no, this is what I want to do. And allowing the subconscious parts of my brain take over and compose while I'm playing. And, that was a bit of an identity crisis while I was working through that.
That is highly understandable. I mean, the clients I compose for now, between Netflix and NBC and so on, of course, they have rules and expectations and telling me what they want it to be. And then I am still to this day struggling with, where's me in this piece? I want to create things that sound like it came from me, and at least put my mind there when I'm creating it instead of feeling like, it's just going to be a 1 minute thing or a bumper or interstitial. It's still coming from me.
That's a real challenge when you're doing what's called commercial art, because we both come from a graphics background. You did graphics. My wife and I did a lot of film and video work. And there's your vision as an artist, and your client will tell you they hired you for your vision, but they have their own vision of what they want or what they need for you to produce. And sometimes you have to, on commercial things, unhook part of your own ego and your own mind and do what the client needs you to do. And it's very frustrating. It's actually what led my wife and me to start doing fine art, because we needed an escape from commercial art where the client was dictating the final product and we weren't happy with it personally. We needed a space to go create what we wanted to do. And that's why she and I started creating our own art outside of the paying client work.
Wow. I mean, that makes so much sense. This, my newest show just launched this week. It's Nicole Meyer, BBW. Check it out. I just posted it on Instagram, and I did the music for the show. And they asked me to, first write to picture, create a thing, and I did, and that was like me, right? And then they come back with revisions and all these give us like these many options and so on. We end up back at the first thing I created. And that happens, I don't know, 4 out of 5 times.
It takes a lot of there's a lot of psychology in managing clients, because everyone has their own ego wrapped up in the process. And we found that we had to play these. My wife is very good at this game of making it seem like it was the client's idea. And if they would suggest something, she said, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. But what about this then? And then how does this relate to this? And then what about this? All of these things that she thought out ahead of time that they weren't taking into account. And they come back and, you're right. Yeah, we should go this way.
Totally, but it's a learning process.
Yeah.
When you take this, what we're doing here, into like the professional realm of like people are now coming to you demanding like here's a time frame and a date that you have to deliver a thing, is very different from I'm feeling a certain way, I'm gonna hang out in my space and create and record or not record. It's completely different parts of the brain, but it's awesome. I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, I've seen some connections to that though, to when you do shows that people are putting on. For example, when my Trish and I were starting to do art shows, we did them as part of various art societies or art groups, and they would always have a theme or a restriction. You must use this media, or it must be on this subject
Oh yeah,
matter. And that used to drive us crazy, because it's like I use this media, not this media, or I want to do this with the subject as opposed to that. And eventually we had to stop entering shows that put those restrictions on us. I think it's the
sure.
same where people are playing gigs, like, we're all playing ambient tonight, we're all playing techno tonight, we're all playing one style of music tonight, and people having to channel all their creativity down to, I only get to use this slice of it for this show.
Yeah, and we get restrictions like that. So if it feels good and feels like a good challenge where you think you're going to learn, jump in. If it feels like you're not into it, prepared, you don't have to jump in. I think it's like that, right?
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, I'll do the same thing with individual musicians. I love jamming with other people, and I will purposely go play with people who do different music styles than me because I want my head to be enlarged and listen to that style and try to adapt what I do to that style. But I hate it when it's imposed to me from the outside. We're doing a show and you must play in this style.
Hmm. 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 I always break the rule.
Good.
And you do it and you smile and it seems to be okay, I think. I don't know. Yeah, it's a learning process, and especially, the reason why I jump into all the challenges because I'm still trying to figure out my identity in it, and sorting out your identity and humanizing your identity and working with all the beautiful blinking electronic gear. It's like it's stressful for some. I've spoken to folks who are not just starting, but people who have even like been jamming for years and haven't gone in that way. And I don't know how to describe that, but when there's a way that you tap into that, and you figure out who you are in front of your instrument, that's where it gets really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting subject too, because I've had this argument, maybe it's a strong word argument, discussion with other people about approaching, are we using equipment or are we using an instrument?
Hmm.
And it comes in the context of like, I really try to personalize my systems to be my personal instrument, as
Yeah.
opposed to being equipment that I'm using to make music. Uh,
Yeah.
I occasionally
Totally.
get them with module builders. Why do you want this custom panel? Why do you need this type of wood for your case? So like, because I want to I want to fall in love with my instrument every time I walk in the
Yeah.
room and see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had patches on certain skiffs that I'm like, that is an instrument as it is as a trumpet would be, and this is what this does. Actually, the skiff that I have set up for my organica electronica that hook up to plants and food things is an instrument. Like I'm not changing it. It is what it is, and so I understand that. And then there's gear, and then there's tools, and there's like everything else that then you can humanize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that one of the subjects you wanted to talk about, since both you and I, also teach electronic music to other people, was getting started in modular. I mean, bringing a piano from a church into your place is one thing, but getting into a modular system is another thing. And something we talked about is like first modules. And I've encountered so many beginners who are like, I've been following the forums and I heard that this module is really cool. I have this module. Now, what do I do with it? And, they bring a clouds home and they don't realize that a modular synth is not one module. It's an ecosystem. It's a band. It's something you're putting together. So we're talking about, now I'm an engineer. So before I build my module, I'm like working out, I need these filters, I need these oscillators. And the first module I actually bought was a low gain submix, a mixer for all the oscillators I was planning on. But what was your entry point? How did you get started modular? What was your first module, or what do you tell people to think about as their first module?
So I'm not an engineer, and I like cool looking things. So my very first module, I have it right here, was this wasp filter. I was
I
like,
have one of
whoa,
those
yellow
too.
and black. It's so cool. And then the second module I bought was this Doper theremin.
Ooh.
Okay. It's, several $100 right there, right? what the hell am I filtering and thereminating? You
Yep.
know? So I was like, what do I do with this? Oh, I need what? And then actually, Chris, that's when, I'm not trying to kiss your ass, but I'm just telling the truth. And I bought this.
Oh, you're kidding. I didn't realize you bought it that early in
Seriously.
your journey.
See the bookmarks and things like that. Then I started to piece together that's what an oscillator is. I need one of those. So things like that. And I started to then realize, okay, this is expensive. And this entry point is not going to be accessible for everyone. So whatever I can do, I really want to share it. And the first thing I thought of, God, if I were teaching this, what's the first module I would tell people to buy? And the first thing I would tell people to buy is buy a mult. Know what a mult is. You're going to save so much money if you first understand what a mult is. I'm looking at a 5-figure amount of gear that would have been a third less if I understood how to multiply signals and sounds and so on. I have favorite mults. This is a quad switch from Doper. I have single, AB input switches, things like that maximize what you have. Not everybody has cash to, explore with this. And of course, in the past year and a half, we had the beautiful stimulus checks, and that's where most of mine went with a lot of people, hence the boom. But understanding that, those were my first. And then I started to get voices and start to understand.
I think the thing is that a modular synth is something inherently different than a lot of other instruments you buy. You buy an instrument, you set up, you can play it. And with a modular synth, you're starting to build a band. You're starting to build an ecosystem or your own personal orchestra or whatever. And it's not one module. It's how do you put a band together, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's like Lego, right? Sonic Lego.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not cheap. But if you learned how to maximize these things, then perhaps you could save, $1,000 one season.
Well, the funny thing, you brought a patch and tweak that Kim Bjorn and I worked on. And when we started the book, honestly, I swear to you, the idea was this book will save people money because they'll be able to make more intelligent they'll be able to make more intelligent purchase decisions about what they need to make their music.
Chris.
And and people just
became a shopping catalog.
There's this and this is available.
Damn you, Chris. I ended up spending more money. I was like, that sounds great. How about I get that instead of pay rent and eat? I'll take that instead. Yeah, but the book is amazing. Thank you for it. It was one of the first pieces of information I really dove into. I actually want to share a couple of things that were my reading resources.
Yeah, please.
This book, Daphne Orum's book, An Individual Note. Oh, God, guys, if you, this is about generative and really humanizing, tapping into that. Message me if you want the PDF, because I'll give you the PDF. It's cool.
Is it something that's out of print now or hard to get? Or?
Yeah, you can't find it. And plus, it's that book is so special. It changed how I felt about letting go, and just letting things. She talks about aleatoric generative and just the whole perfectionism grip that I did have in the beginning, where I was like, that doesn't sound like gone after I read this. And I'll pass you the PDF, no problem. Another book then, because I started to think maybe I need to learn what's in these, what is actually happening in this. And I know how to solder, and I've worked on modules myself, and my dad was an electrical engineer, so I've soldered things as a kid. I picked this up. This is the Electronic Music Systems, Techniques, and Controls, Alan Strange. So this is the, if you want to know about the electronic stuff, it goes in here. I read it. I forget everything immediately. It is way too technical. There's a bit of spiritual in the beginning when he talks about music in his sense, but it's kind of like the Bible of it, right? But where I really learned so much is the inside of Moog packaging. This?
The inside of Moog packaging, okay.
I'm telling you, I've referred to this. This is from the inside of my Sub 37. Definitions and so on. I had it up on my wall for a long time just to to look at it and remind me, oh yeah, overtones, harmonics, I forgot about that. Or like, noise is good. Like I was hearing this as like a problem and I was trying to get like hum filters and get rid of that. And I was like, no, I should use that like in my sound design as a texture. You know, there's just, I was like, I gotta just hang this thing. So those are my, my most special learning resources. And of course, talking and performing and asking questions and hanging out and jamming, you learn so much from the community, the back and forth.
Yeah, the electronic music world's too big for any one person to have it all in their head, you know. And no
I
one was
can't
born
remember
knowing
it.
this stuff either. So we have to
Yeah.
share. It's the only way we can learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Don't be hard on yourself. Like if you remembered how to do something, like I was really jamming hard on my Mother 32 exactly a year ago. I don't remember how to patch it or to program what I was doing last year. So much other input has entered my brain and then like pushed aside. But I think that's cool. We should just keep recycling our brain. Why not, right?
Yeah, keep renewing it. Well, the brain cells die off and new ones are generated. So,
Sure. There you go.
but it's interesting that you brought up the Daphne Orme book. For those who aren't aware, she is one of the early pioneers of electronic music and even designed her own instruments and way of making music. Orphonics, I forget how, Oramics, I forget what it was
Or
called.
yeah, arms, yeah.
Where she actually could draw gestures onto clear film, and that's what would control pitch and loudness and things like that. And one of the comments I make is there's a lot of electronic music, particularly modular bass, that's all about triggering a stream of notes in a hurry, in a rush. And fewer people worry about or think about how do I take that one note and really make it sing and live and do different things with it.
Humanizing that note. Oh, thanks for saying that. Yeah, exactly. I consider Japanese language to be early MIDI notation, in my opinion. And I think that is so brilliant. And what you just said about what do you do with a single note is part of this whole passion I have about humanizing it all. You know, I think there's so much we can do and how we can bend and filter and do stuff with the sounds. It's so great.
But humanizing, you also mentioned not being a perfectionist or not getting hung up to being a perfectionist. That humanizing doesn't mean being a control freak over every aspect of it, because you're talking about some of the aleatoric music, the more chance-based or systems-based music as well, where you're, I guess, collaborating with machine or collaborating with chance
Yeah.
even.
Oh, try collaborating with plants. Or the other night, Jason, at New York Modular Society in Cicada, I had brought a pumpkin to play with. And this pumpkin and I rehearsed earlier in the day. Later on at night, this pumpkin like went silent, and I was like, "Oh, God damn it!" So and it's bio stuff, so it was like so unpredictable. But then, what do you do with that? So yeah, the perfectionism stuff and like how to like keep it moving and having that confidence or at least the curiosity of how your brain wants to take it to like the next step, into the next 5 seconds, into the next minute, and so on. I mean, sure, you can be really nervous and panic like right before a gig and just think like, oh my God, nothing's working. By the way, you go to, and I think everyone knows this now, you go to a venue and nothing ever sounds as awesome as it does in your studio at home. So you have to adjust emotionally to that and just go like, oh crap, and then roll with it. But I think that's just part of the whole like path of all this, and then performing with then what's thrown at you. I love that actually.
Yeah, that's improvising is actually my happy space. I find it easier for me to just improvise and react to other musicians than to rehearse my own pieces ahead of time and worry about executing them well.
Yeah.
I'm
And as a performer, I mean, so I think about the steps of humanizing things as, okay, so starting with your identity, some of us create performer names. You have your performer name.
Yeah,
My
Alias Zone,
DJ
yeah.
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did Alias Zone come from?
Alias Zone I can talk, came from, I actually played in another group in LA called Cosmic Debris. And the founder of Cosmic Debris had a very open concept to anyone he invited into his ensemble. He treated everyone as equal, everyone could be composers. He made multi-track recordings of everything. And he said, any performer can take these recordings and do whatever they want with them. And I chose some of my favorites of the performances we had done, ones that I thought had reflected me. And I said, I'd like to release these. But since what I've chosen is different than what I knew he would choose under Cosmic Debris, I said, I'm going to release this underneath an alias. I thought,
Aha.
well, Alias. And then I found that Alias was the name of a big hair Canadian hard rock band. And I went, okay, that's not going to work. So I started studying other meanings of aliasing. And aliasing has very technical meanings in digital audio in terms of beyond a certain frequency, you get ghosts of the harmonics appear mirrored. And I thought, and the transition in between the reality, the original sound, and these ghost harmonics is called the alias zone, that transition zone. I thought that's where I wanted to play with, was that transition between reality and creating these imaginary worlds. And that's just kind of where that rolled from.
That's the perfect amount of nerdiness I needed to hear right now. My performer name as a DJ comes from when I was working with TED Talks, and one of the speakers was the Jizza from Wu-Tang, and he actually gave me CherishTheLuv. It's a really funny story. But in this synth experience, I've been just thinking about like, I want to come up with like an identity and name and kind of compartmentalize that and perform from that new launching space. I might do that in 2022. We'll see what happens. But for now, I still just perform as me. And when I can, I perform and tap into my identity as a Filipino American. This is a Filipino shield. And I just try to like just have that visibility, because we're a minority in this music scene. And I just want to just like show people, hey, jump in, hop in and do this too. Ask me how, I'll teach you. I've got gear, come over, we'll do it on Zoom and so on. When it comes to performing, humanizing, I think of it also as there's like hardware things that you could use to humanize. And then there is kind of secret tricks that you can have up your sleeve that humanize, and then just your spirit when you're actually performing. So hardware, we'll share some. Well, I showed you obviously theremin.
The theremin controller from Dover, which is very gestural and physical.
Yeah, when you're really physical with it, you can start getting into a zone, and people really just kind of fall into that. That's lovely. I have been enjoying the cicada from Physical Synthesis, which is also very tactile.
Why don't you describe that a little bit more, because not very many people are familiar with that.
So the cicada is what they would call it's a very physical synthesizer. It takes control voltage. It has these receivers and speaker pickups that then vibrate this bridge that looks like a cicada's wing. And it's like it oscillates onto, don't have the other piece right here. Oh, here I do, right here. Onto this piece, which then acts kind of like a drum head. And when you oscillate these physical sounds, they make tones. Oscillate it faster, it's a higher tone. In sound design, you can make wonderful drones. In the piece I did for NBC, I created helicopter sounds, but I felt like I was actually affecting it versus just triggering something or setting something MIDI. In electronics also, we have Vocalium mics where you can make sounds and then they register MIDI for you. That's really cool. Anything that has keys or keyboard. I was previously using life forms to kind of just like change keys and just feel like I was jamming. I wanted to have more fun, and I picked up a couple of fun little things like this right here. Oh, this one's really cute. The Freestylo, which is also...
Oh yeah, I have one of those now too, yeah.
Keys. Yeah, it's really sweet. And you just use a patch cable as your contact to make the notes. And just all those things that make it more play and more fun and more expressive. I just dig, because I do get kind of frustrated or bored when I'm just letting something just run and I feel like I could walk away from it.
Yeah.
and then like, is that really me? And then I also love like the Playtronica, all the Playtronica stuff, which is MIDI, tactile, all the tactile things. And maybe I think one of my favorites, which is like kind of an oldie, and I think I showed you this last time, good old Omnichord.
Yeah. Is yours stock or is it hacked? Circuit bent?
No, it's stock. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's totally original, and it's quirky as hell. And the tactile part of it, where you can do the glissandos and just kind of create your own kind of human LFO situation and rhythms. Love that. But there are things that don't have that kind of sensory stuff. I mean, obviously, I have here, I said I'd hooked up.
I was going to ask that, beyond gestural, now you're getting into playing around with biofeedback.
Biofeedback, talk about humanizing, right? So I have, this is my biofeedback plants and organica situation. Let's see if I think it's
so
all set up.
Instruõ, if I remember correctly, is it Instruõ that makes a very specific module to connect to these?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a pair of Instruõ Scíons. Now this is hooked up to me, right? So I'm going to control the CV on this, and it's already blinking to my biorhythm, so I feel human, and I am... Oh, love it. So there's ways that you can affect things.
I was going to ask, like in that patch, what is the signal from those pads and the current or resistance across your body? What's that controlling in that patch?
The Instruõ Scíon from one of the CV outs is going into a Pico VCO, in bank 2, it's VCO, not LFO. That is then going into pressure points, whereas then, I might as well turn it up. So right now...
So that's not connected, yeah, good.
This is not connected. This is me now. And then I can transpose it with pressure points. So there. And that's one of the, so I have a pair of them because then sometimes I record generative stuff while this plant is attached or some other kind of biofeedback thing. It helps me heal this like intense perfectionism that I was just born with. So I can sit back and just chill for a minute and just be like amazed by the surprises. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the whole thing with Eurorack is like, surprise!
Yeah.
Oh, you planned what? Surprise! So that is really important for me to be able to touch things and not just, filter knobs and so on, but to input that way. But then you get gear that is, like I'm doing a little partnership with Electron as a performer and tester, and everything is set up so beautifully, perfectly clean and rigid. And I was like, how do I humanize this? So I'm trying to figure that out now and trying to like just get into my own settings and so on and how to jam with it. So one of the really wonderful things about this is you can turn it into a chromatic key and then I can play it like a keyboard. So that's the first step that I'm at with it. But I want to figure this out and just like really make it like an endeared tool or instrument for me. So yeah, that's, I think in this particular space, that's obviously keyboards and pianos that I hook up to my Eurorack is probably the first way I go to humanize what I'm working on with the electronics.
So that you're physically involved in the performance of the music. And
yeah,
this is not just for you personally, also for when you're performing in front of people so they can better see that your input into the music that you're creating.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but I guess so. I suppose, yeah. I didn't think people wonder how I'm inputting, but I wanted to express what's in me with the intention of affecting people. And I mean, I'll play something. This is, right now it's set up for a patch that if Seth is here, I've named this patch after you, Seth. So Seth was listening to my set at DC. Oh, there you are, Seth. Modular at the mall in DC. Weeks after my performance, Seth told me that he wasn't able to join us because he had a migraine, but listened online, and when he was listening, what I was playing had fixed his migraine. And I was like, Seth, that's incredible. So it made me think about the connection then that the audience has with what you're playing. So I'm going to just jam a little and see if it stayed in tune and see what happens. Yeah, let's see, I'll give you like 2 minutes or so. Do we hear this?
Yes.
Sound good?
Yes. That was awesome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
for sharing
It's
that.
fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's just, you get these tingles and you're just like, "Whew, it feels so good. It feels so good."
That was wonderful how that had a lovely arc to it as well, because obviously it felt almost soundtrack-ish in terms of taking us somewhere on that journey.
Yeah, and we have this like entire wilderness and like landscape of like things, and you can pour yourself out into what's right in, arm's reach and discover these like, oh my God. I mean, first of all, talking about humanizing, here's a secret. Tune things your way. So this is not tuned to like the world's what is A in the world. it's This is my own tuning system that somehow works with me and my ears. It might be a G sharp or something like that. But I found that when I tuned things to my way instead of tuning things to what was traditionally classical music or so on and so forth, I just wouldn't fly. Like there was just a thing when it was like, oh, if I tune it this way, somehow I physically am able to just do certain things, and it just like it just is a whole, it becomes me, more human. And then no one else can do it that way. And that's also special, right?
But between that connection with yourself and what frequencies are connecting with you, and then you also mentioned that Seth said he heard your performance and cleared up his migraine. I know something you're really intensely interested in is a connection between electronic music and healing,
Yeah.
anxiety, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that so many times I've gone into my safe and peaceful solitude moments with my instruments and with my gear to just kind of connect with myself and just really learn how to listen to myself and to trust my intuition and to get more creative that way. That has been incredibly healing for me. And in times when I have like a very down moment or a down mood, I jump on my in my little cockpit. But it didn't happen. It wasn't instant. It wasn't always like that. I had to learn my tools first to then have that ability to then say, I can trust this and just fly with this. It has been so therapeutic for me and for so many of us. Like, I'm sure if I asked like who loves their gear because they can tune out and heal and just like jam and just be yourself and just like, who cares about anyone else in the world? I'm trying to figure out like my sound, or maybe not even, just, I'm going to be honest. The gear has helped me through heartbreaks and helped me support myself in healing addiction and just like mood things and all kinds of stuff like that, because I've been able to focus and it nourishes me back. That's the key.
It's like a healthy addiction, is playing with
Yeah.
the instruments.
Absolutely. And then what a gift to share it.
Yeah, it can be addictive, but it's a creative addiction where you're creating something rather than blocking stuff out necessarily or trying to. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's, as you say, it's a very nourishing to be creative and to create that music.
Yeah, and it has helped me create this whole process of how to be the artist I always wanted to be. And I finally have like entered that space because I've gone through enough of the trials and the pain and the exercises and keep learning and not telling myself I'm an idiot for not knowing how to do X, Y, or Z, and just keep learning and growing that way and staying curious. So I created this whole like mindset and like self-soothing way of like sitting with gear and learning. And I'm definitely going to share a bunch of that with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. But it reminds me, a few of us have talked about a book that we particularly like called Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that comes up early on it is like, be kind to yourself. Stop beating yourself up because you're not where you want to be.
Totally. Is this time? Should I start sharing my?
Yes, go, please.
Yeah, I mentioned this yesterday in our session. I kind of, over the past 2 years, have been telling myself kinder things as I create. Because, I work in a profession that's very cutthroat and very competitive. So it's really easy to be like, oh, I didn't get that because I'm not good enough. That's not even the case. It's just, there's so many reasons why you might not get a gig or might you think are being passed on something you're actually not. There's just so many reasons, and why make up a story? So I had started to write down what my process was for like kind of gentle sound and sensuality and where my mind is at when I'm doing all of this. And it's kind of like sonic or creative tarot. Sometimes I'll just like pull a random one and it's like, oh, that's what I needed right now. So I'll just read a bunch, and I'm sure some will resonate with you. And I guess with this session we're doing, if I could have a call to action, it would be if one or two of them stand out to you, apply it. You don't have to let me know if it affected you or not, but just apply it. It would be like really cool, because I would probably feel that energy. Mm-hmm. So here's one. Be passionate about your creative wellness. I think that is so important. And creative wellness to me is such a very human thing, because so many times we're like, oh, God, I'm not smart enough, or I just need the next module because maybe that'll fix why I don't know this thing, yeah. or I'm too scared to play out because all the reasons, you know. But I think to do this and to practice and to be public about it is, oh, perfect. What this one says, every note you share is an act of strength and courage. Mm-hmm. You know, when you perform publicly, like I've DJ'd for years, but not a lot of people have performed, and it's terrifying, but I see it as such an act of strength and courage. You know,
it's very interesting, because prior to in music, my wife and I ran a user group in Hollywood, cutthroat industry, on creating graphics for television and film. And we'd have these people who are very accomplished designers, very accomplished in their field, are respected, and we have them come up on stage and do a presentation or share something they did. Yeah. And they all were petrified, just absolutely petrified. Like, I remember one person who's head of a design company, and when he came up, I said, that was really good. He said, I'm about to throw up. Because there is this tension of putting ourselves out there and being, I guess, judged.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. You know, I mean, it is terrifying. And unless you're a sociopath, you care, right? Unless you're like, oh, no, really, I shut everyone out, no one exists, you know. But that's important to also understand that feeling. What I do with that energy, I dump it into the performance. So some performances might end up sounding a little more hectic and wild, and I just end up laughing. So it's like, it's really what I do in those moments. I tune that stuff out, and then I do what this is, go inward and search for that sonic treasure. So sometimes, you know, and in the very beginning, I was like, if I buy this oscillator, I think that's the sound I'm looking for, you know, and then maybe if I buy this filter, that's the sound. But if I'm not connecting from here to be like, this is the sound I'm using, then I'm never going to find that sound. You know, so it's like this constant chase. Well, it's an expensive chase.
It's an expensive chase, but it's very easy, because new modules come out. There's videos. There's people online saying, "Isn't this awesome?" And you just kind of feel like, "Oh, I should get this," because everyone says it's cool, as opposed to, "Is this how I make my music?" And yeah. I find with my own module collection, a lot of people say, "What have you bought? You know, what are you buying soon?" And I'm like, I'm kind of happy with what I have right now. And, you know, I'm buying things for different purposes, not because it's a brand new module, but because it fits what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. This one is, I always think of dissonant. Jason, I think of you. What's your name in the game? And when I think about my artist name, I always think about dissonant, you know, and Jason, you have this logo, you know, I just think about, like, when I get to these thoughts about who I'm creating as an artist. And I ask everyone, I've asked Christian, I've asked everyone, like, tell me about your artist name. Like, I want to know, like, what's the story behind that? Because I think I'm in the place where I'm trying to figure out, like, what mine is. This next one is Tune Your Way, which is, like I said earlier, tune
your own way, yeah.
Who the hell, like, keep your, like, if you got secrets, keep them, whatever, or share them. This one's really special. Perform and play like no one came before you and no one is coming after.
You hear that quite a bit, people's anxiety about who do I need to follow, I can't top that, and things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I put my mind here to sometimes, what is your mythology as a performer? It's like, what mysterious story you're creating for people when they're tuning in and listening? Like, who are you? And then when you're performing, I think of it like you got to breathe into their ears.
That's a good one.
It's like, dump all those sounds.
It's a connection, too, that you're really talking about there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not wanting to connect, why are you playing public? Like, why? You might as well just jam at home. But
Yes.
you want to connect because otherwise you wouldn't be playing public. So, maybe you want to connect, right? And, there's just so many opinions about it all and what's right and what's wrong and what sounds good and whatever. But I still think like just keep doing you, and know that that moment is going to be unique. It's kind of like something Laurie Anderson, I had met her through Michelle Moog, and she said something to me that changed my life. So Laurie Anderson said to me, there's something really beautiful about playing music you've never played before that you will never play again. When she said that to me, everything in me that was tight and uptight and nervous just, I was like, wow, okay, cool. Yeah.
It's like permission.
Total permission. And, just knowing that everybody's in that place.
Also, the comment, the card before where you talked about being you and being personal, it was a real life-changing moment for me is when I was studying art. And you're reading what artists you admire and you're trying to figure out how they made their stuff. And I ran across one instructional book that said, what makes you think you have anything new to bring to this area? Why are you copying what others have already done beforehand? Ooh. And it said instead, what are you interested in that's unique? That's what you should be bringing. Rather than copying what someone else is doing, what are your interests? What are your tastes? What are your foibles? Bring that and make that brand new mixture out of that, rather than trying to imitate what someone else is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pull the card for that, which says access your audible swagger. And my favorite performers, you guys, you have a swagger, and I see it. I see it when you're jamming. I feel it. I feel the energy when you're like doing your thing and you're like in your space and you feel safe and you're like, do your thing. More about performing out, prepare, then get ready to lose that all, play and perform. And every time, I swear, because I've performed out in many ways in many places, every time whatever I prepared went well, I never grew. Like, I just didn't grow, because it was like, all right, cool. Every time I had a disaster or some kind of gear situation or tuning thing, and I learned the escape route, my brain was like on fire. Like, I learned like a whole thing, and learned about myself.
It's a lot to learn to trust yourself that you can get out of problems.
Yeah.
Rather than panicking like I'm lost, is trust yourself that I will find a way out of this.
Well, that's perfect for this next one I want to read, which is if you're insecure about figuring things out and making decisions, then just be a vessel. Just be a conduit. And just let the things flow through you. Because really, who's judging? Like, and if anyone is, like, who cares about them? Seriously. I think that we're creative. So, we're afraid of someone being like, your stuff's shit.
Well, I think I've said this before. That's one of the things I love about the modular communities. I think they're one of the least judgmental, most open and welcoming communities. Because I watch documentaries and other music scenes, and it just kills me how toxic the competition is between bands and scenes, even what city you're from and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't get that out of the modular community. Everyone's so supportive because they know this isn't easy. And that there's ways of being yourself, and they're very supportive of that, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes like you gain a lot of respect when you're not even playing anything. And that is, how do you handle liminal spaces in audio? How do you handle the quieter moments?
Yeah, liminal being on the very edge of perception.
Very edge, or those connecting spaces. How do you handle those moments? And that's when you really grab people, even though not much is being, not much volume or whatever's going on. But I think if you can have a handle of even when it's quiet, then you're in a good place. Yeah. So, I had been going through the past year and so and learning how to figure out, put my mind in the right place, and be kinder about my creativity and knowing that I'm always learning. Know your entire neck. This is the last one I'll share for now. Know your entire neck. So this comes from one of my friends who's my Ableton master instructor. He's a bass player, master bass player. And whenever I look at my gear, I think of him saying, you have to know your entire neck.
Oh, okay.
Know the neck. Was talking to a singer about this, and she was thinking of it as all the muscles in her neck. So I think of my neck as being like all the tools and the instruments I can work with. And be kind about still learning. Like, there are so many modules here that I only know a tenth of what it can do. Oh my God, Euclidean circles and all the hidden menus and all the other things. You know, it's like, but why pressure yourself into thinking that you should know it all right now? You know.
Yeah, and I find when I have a module I'm not comfortable using because I don't know it, I avoid it. I don't use it when I'm performing or something like that. That's why I consciously try to divide my own time into what I call R&D time, where I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn this so that when it comes time to use it, it's not a concern. It's already been absorbed, and just use it rather than going, okay, now if I remember what key command this is.
I mean, listen, we can't remember everything. So the thing is, like, we have to practice, right? So I've been doing some online jams. Christian's been on quite a few of them. And we just have folks come and learn and present by playing something they haven't used in a while, which is like most of what we've got. And then, just kind of jam with it and knowing, like, it's cool, just show me what that is. I don't know what it is. I don't know everything. I know like 1% of everything.
Jason Dissonant had an interesting question that he put up in chat, and rather than just rereading, I'm going to have you unmute yourself, Jason. Go ahead and ask, Cherish yourself.
Great, thank you. Hey, first, Cynthia, you're awesome. Your honesty and bravery in sharing all this personal stuff about you, I respect it. I think it's really cool.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Thank you.
So I'm curious if you think that there's something about modular that in some way encourages the musician to express their identity more than other instruments.
Oh, yeah, actually, what a great question. So I find modular to be really fun. So I also know that when you're not having fun with any kind of instrument, you don't express anything. And I find that when you go and create your custom setup, that is you creating something so personal. I'm not ever going to touch your skiff. You're probably never going to go and jump on mine and touch mine. It is so personal. I think that also because we can interchange it, we can change it to our mood. And if we're tired of hearing a certain thing or a certain thing we've been doing over and over again, just switch it up. I think that what is so cool about modular is, like, Jason, you have a sound. Like, we know you know we have you close because Jason's got a Jason. A dissonant is a dissonant, right? So when you have done that to us, the listeners, yeah, you've totally personalized it. And that is totally a dream, goal of mine as well. Like, to just feel like, yeah, this is me personalizing this wild Lego thing that we've got. And understand that every time you set up your gear and perform your way, it's like you're branding yourself.
I also think, the modular is an instrument where there's less of an expectation of what you're going to do with it. I've heard a lot of non-modular musicians say, oh yeah, there's modular music, as if, that was a category. But I think there's a much less expectation than when you pick up an acoustic guitar or a trumpet of what you're supposed to do with it compared to a modular, which is so wide open.
Yeah, hey, if you're in ambient mood, go for it. Or if I'm feeling like I really want to do like 129 BPM this month, go for it. And that's what I love about it. It is so, I can, however I'm feeling right now, if I want to do lots of piano-like things, I'm going to go lots of piano-like things. If I want to do drum machine stuff, that's what makes it so personal. And I love it. It's like I have many semi-modular pieces of gear as well. And honestly, I don't think I touch it as much. And they're really great instruments. But this, it's like when I'm like, oh, no, I want something else from here and I'm going to bring it to a gig. Yeah, that's personalizing it.
I thought it was interesting that you said you would not want to touch Dissonant's skiff and you want him to touch, because this was a question It's like a Rorschach test. Someone said, wouldn't it be a cool idea for people to take their instruments and swap them for a month and see what you come up with? And some people say, that's fantastic. And I've had people, absolutely not.
The funny thing is, it's like you could look at someone's skiff and be like, what am I looking at? And you could maybe even own half of the same modules, but Jason's spirit is in it. And like my vibe is in it. And there's some, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I feel a force field. Like I'll walk up to someone's and I respect it right away. It's just like at a DJ booth. You're not like going to be like, hey, let me just touch everything. You ask questions and you like hover and take pictures and so on, but I'm never going to go to your wall, Chris, and be like, what's happening here?
You're welcome anytime to come play with this beast.
That beast intimidates me, but I love it. That's a great question. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good answer.
But I like the challenge of like sitting with someone else's gear and patching your own thing to it.
I get that people expect me to walk up to someone else's modular and like use it immediately. And I'm like, first I have to figure out the logic, the system, the thought process of how they laid this thing out.
Humanizing it. So yeah, like my system is laid out to be like pads, rhythm, lead, like I have a system. And in my performance mixer, I've color coded it, so like I can see things, what's like going on for me. Someone who'd be in front of my thing be like, what the hell are all these stickers? and what does that do? And there's some people who use like, 2 colors of patch cables, 1 color whatever. And that's what makes it so personal and so expressive and fun, Yeah, this makes sense to me now, but it really took a solid year with like this kind of like plotting that I had for it to now be like super, I can just jump in. I know exactly what I want to design from my head out.
Yeah, these things are not intuitive too. A lot of people think they feel guilty for not immediately understanding, and they're not intuitive. You have to spend time with them. And
exactly.
You talk about personalizing. I'm building up a new performance case right now. And just last night I said, okay, this isn't working and I have to rearrange the modules in it just because of the layout. And I'm going to be playing a gig hopefully late January with it. And I'm like, gave myself an extra several weeks, not just to compose a piece, but like to build up this new instrument. It's like I have a new group of musicians I'm playing with. We all have to rehearse and get to know each other. And, yeah.
Nice. Well, thank God for knurlies, right?
Yeah. I only put in 2 screws per module now because I know they're going to keep swapping around.
Same. I do not put all the screws in. Nice and wobbly. But do we have any other questions? I just realized yeah, I would love to answer. What have we got?
Yeah, if anyone wants to throw something in the chat or raise a hand, I'll be happy to put them here. Jason says he's part of the 2 screw club. There's a story when Trovarsi played one demo with nothing screwed in, and people said, we're just freaking out about that.
Oh, Christian, you suggest Brené Brown. Absolutely. Absolutely. Brené Brown, I have listened to and read so much. Thank God she exists.
Now, Christian, I'm not familiar. So could you explain a little bit about her and why you think she's compelling?
She's a researcher in the field of shame, actually.
Okay.
It's interesting, but she researched quite a lot about society and how shame prevents people from going out and doing stuff, basically. And so I would say many of her works are repetitive in some ways. Like if you have read 2 of her books, you will recognize patterns in the next 2 you read. But still, she's looking at this data and this information she gathered over the years from different perspectives, and it's quite an interesting insight. And I feel they are really nice because they are a good read. They're nicely written. They're not too scientific, yet they provide you with all the information you need and all the background. And they're also not self-help books in any way. Mm-hmm. Like they don't suggest too much. So it's a really nice. It's like you feel like you ingest new information, interesting new information, and at the same time work on yourself. So that's it's really nice. And
I love that.
Yeah, and these 2 fit totally in the topic of getting out, performing, getting over this barrier of feeling not good enough, and handling it, basically getting a way to work with it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Christian, how do you feel you humanize your gear?
Well, that's currently a topic I'm very much struggling with, because I feel I'm falling back to stuff that is super not human, and at the same time I am a deeply human person in the way I enjoy music and I react to music. So it's a bit of a challenge. I enjoy the modular itself, but I haven't found the interaction point for me yet. Like, I'm trying different things, but I'm not there yet. It's an interesting struggle for me right now.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. And I'm so surprised, because when we jammed, I felt like you were in the space where we were all like, well, I guess it's just different every day, right?
Yeah, it's different every day, obviously, and it's always this. If I'm in the moment in the jam, I mean, there's lots of knobs and stuff you can do things, but if you're sitting in front of it and trying to imagine a performance without actually, without being in the moment and just jamming in the flow, that's something different. I feel like in that moment, you're like, I have this sound and I'm kind of afraid to touch these knobs, because then the sound is gone, but I also can't discover anything new if I don't turn the knobs. So
I totally understand. Totally. Wow. Yeah, relatable. Of course, relatable. Not everything is easy,
Yeah.
And I think that those feelings, whew, they're so real. They're so real. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I try to preconceive a lot of my compositions, which is a complete opposite of me liking to improvise. But I find that if the ideas aren't coming, I just have to sit in front of the instrument and play.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, "Oh, this isn't going to be perfect," like, let's put up a drum pattern, let's pull up some patches, and then just start playing, and then see where my mind starts saying, "Okay, let's go over here now."
It is so much like that. Like, I try to make it also as organic experience as possible. I have written down patches and tricks up my sleeve and so on, rehearse them, practice them. Those are like my escape routes and stuff. But when I'm sitting down, I try to find like just something new and different, just so that I can broaden the toolkit, right? And just to be like, oh, I spent $300 on that. Does that too? Great.
I've been trying to come up with little tricks to force myself to broaden out. Like, in addition to the modular, I obviously have a lot of polysynths back over my shoulder here as well. And my own system with polysynths is first go through them, see what presets there are that I like, then start tearing those apart and say, what's the commonality, and then start building my own patches. So I have sessions where I'm just going through presets. Do I like this? Do I like this? Do I like this? And every time I have a session, I'm now forcing myself to play in a different musical key. Just
yeah.
Like, okay, this time I'm not going to just go back to C minor and do everything in C minor. Just also get my mind used to thinking of different relationships between notes. Let's try a Phrygian and just see how that changes my relationship to this instrument. And be willing to modify it. Oh, this patch really wants that note flattened. This isn't working. So get out of the rigid bit of the scale and then go ahead and play that other note, because that's what's going to work with this patch. Then research later. Oh, that means that was this scale. Okay, now I know. Yeah. But it's like forcing me to broaden horizons. Yeah.
I have a similar experience of instead of sitting down first and discovering what wants to sound, I would be washing the dishes and try to imagine a sound or some kind of pattern, and then go to my rig and try to create it. Yeah. And I was doing that when I was trying to understand attenuating and cutoffs and LFOs. So I didn't fully understand like how to use an LFO or just envelopes, until I was standing once in my living room. No, I was washing the dishes, and I just went like this. And I started to physically make the sounds. And I was like, how would I do that? And then I went to my gear, and I was like, oh, okay, faster, slower. And then I just started to, once you like embody what these things do, then you it becomes like really like an extension of you. It's really special. Have you done that, Chris? Wow.
Oh yeah, all the time. I definitely imagine the sounds in my head, and Yeah, you go ahead and think with your vocal track and things like that. How does this go? How do I want this to perform? How do I want this to change? Then how do you recreate it?
Yeah.
Well,
Recreating is a very powerful way to break those patterns of just repeating your thing, and also to like learn and how to like hunt down the thing. Like I remember also thinking about like just filtering and being like, and just knowing like that's what it's supposed to sound like. How do I create that here? And then find the right paths for that.
yeah, and a lot of
Very
what I
helpful.
do also, I have a backbone patch in the instrument, like so the pitch voltages go to all the oscillators, and the mix path is kind of set up ahead of time. But otherwise, I pull out all the patch cables between songs, and so I'm not using the same bass patch. I'm having to create a brand new bass patch from scratch each time, just
Yeah,
to.
that's definitely something I want to do more.
Christian was asking in the chat. We're talking about like learning instruments. How long does it take to learn a new instrument until you're comfortable with it? And instruments are like people. There's some people you meet that you immediately get along with, and you're ready to go out on a date or go see a movie or go skateboarding with. There's other people you have to spend time with and talk to on several occasions before you're really comfortable with them. And I find the same with instruments. There's no set period of like in 3 days I can go perform with this instrument. It's like some are immediate, like, oh, I've connected with this instrument. Next gig, I'm using this. Versus, okay, this is still leaning back against the wall, and I'll keep bringing it out occasionally until I build a rapport with it.
Yeah, and my experience with that is I felt like I was comfortable with the instrument when I got to a place where I was like, oh, I want to show someone that.
When you're ready to share
oh,
it.
oh my God, oh, I want them to hear something. I want to hear this. Like when you get to that point, then it's like you start getting comfortable. And there's no, set time frame. I have 2 violins. I have a trumpet. I have never played the trumpet out in the public. Sparing you all. Because I never got to the point where I was like, oh, there's something that I can play that I want to show people.
Do you ever put yourself in a position where you have to learn it? For example, when I was trying to force myself to do my own compositions rather than just jam with others, I would volunteer to do a lot of performances because that would force me to compose and get out there. And lately I've had to even with synth societies, hey, show this piece of gear you have. Like, I haven't learned that one yet. I guess I better learn it.
Oh yeah, learning and unlearning and relearning. I mean, just because I learned it doesn't mean I remember it.
Yeah.
So most of the times I'm like, I need a refresher. You got to go back. Yeah, all the time.
And procrastination is a very strong force.
Yeah, sometimes I procrastinate with the gear though, so we're tight.
There you go. Some people call it the best expression I've heard for that is very well managed attention deficit disorder.
Ooh.
Is it's okay to go ahead and play with this. Now play with this. Now play with this. Now try this. Now try this. As long as you're moving instead of being paralyzed, that's how to manage not being able to focus on something.
Hey, I'll take that. I'll take that. That sounds great. That was like me going through your book and be like turning, like not going in page order at all. Yeah, great.
So you've hinted a lot about, all the different things you've done and tried so far, and you've been hinting that you're kind of like looking at this new space for yourself to occupy next year. I mean, what's your goal that you're going towards here? What are you dreaming that you're going to be or doing?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, because I think the more I say it, the more I put it out, and maybe molecules will pull it together. I have a dream to become the next artist in residence at NASA.
Laurie Anderson, having been the first.
And the only, and the last. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm curious in my lifetime, what does it take to become a resident artist at NASA? So I have a few meetings at NASA. There'll be, Mars, exactly. Funny enough, my name is up on 2 of the rovers up on Mars, so I feel like I'm already kind of, my name's up there. But that's what I want to, I kind of just set my sights to that, and like, what would that mean? So it could be like creating soundtracks for whatever they do in research, or using more biofeedback content as my CV, and just like learning. So I'm just kind of set that goal and then just see how it reverse engineers itself back to me, if it does.
That brings up another interesting thing. That's fantastic that you have that goal. A lot of our national parks have artist in residence programs.
Yeah.
Where you can come out there and live at the park for weeks or months at a time. And usually part of their requirement is then you do a public presentation at the end of your stay of what you've done. And that might be another interesting way for people to evolve themselves, is to start pursuing those opportunities, spend some time in a space they're unfamiliar with the goal of sharing.
Great idea. And that's why I love collaborating. Using Sonobus, that's what we use online. And then I have started another artist residency at a greenhouse in Brooklyn to do just that. We have a question.
Yeah, I see that Perf is not showing his face or voice, but you're welcome to come online and ask that question yourself if you'd like to. Let's see if he unmutes himself here.
Making music outside the commercial circuits, for sure. Okay, so Perf is asking, maybe this is a bit off topic, but you're making music outside the commercial circuits, pressure, and I wonder how can you find your audience if it does exist for sure? They're listening or attending everywhere. Any suggestions?
Like, how do you find an audience? That's been mentioned a lot about music in particular with things like Bandcamp, et cetera, these days, but even in the video realms, et cetera, where there's no longer 3 or 4 templates you have to fit into. There's all these small tribes that have these narrow interests. And how do you connect with that tribe? How do you go out and find them and connect with them?
Yeah, you know what? I know I wrote a card for that, and I remember it in my head, but I was just trying to find it. I think of it like just keep creating what you need to create and trust that the right people come and find you and hear you.
And putting it out there.
That's always what's happened.
You have to put it out there, yeah. You have to put it out there, yeah.
And of course, TikTok and, all of it is like, I struggle with it all too. Spotify even, So I don't really have a solid answer for that. I think that's a question I'm also trying to figure out, audiences.
Yeah. I mean, one of the silver linings of the pandemic is I think a lot of local scenes have become now national and international. And, you've got a great modular society in New York. I'm fortunate that we have one in New Mexico based around where I am. A lot of musicians live in places where they don't have a local scene where they can go connect with people. Mm-hmm. And one of the wonderful things that's happened during this past year and a half is people have started opening up their local scenes to anyone, anywhere. Like for the New Mexico control voltage, as we call ourselves, we have a physical space we meet in when we can, but we also have a monthly meeting that's on the internet. It's a Zoom session, and we have people literally from Australia, England, many different states, not just New Mexico, coming to that. That's one way of finding a scene. And I think maybe Bandcamp has become quite a way to get yourself out there as well. Is what do you think your style is? Start tagging yourself that way. Mm-hmm. Explore other musicians with that tag, and people exploring that genre may find you through tagging it and just putting your material out on Bandcamp so people can find it.
I so value this question because I'm also in that place. I haven't been releasing music in that way because I work for TV, and my stuff is released in those ways.
Yeah.
But as I develop my artist self in this coming year, I'm going to have to face this thing too. So if there's anyone here with us that has some kind of like input on that, I would love to hear that. And Jason, of course, thank you. New York Modular Society has been so welcoming, and I've gotten to grow and learn also alongside with everyone in the past few years. So that question, let's just hold on to that one because we're still trying to figure it out.
Another way you've been sharing, and something I know you want to talk about, is the Mixed Signals Orchestra. Now, what is that? And explain that.
Yes, I have a couple of lovely, talented folks. We have Christian here is one of them. We jam over Sonobus. Sonobus is an audio interface, and we're able to pretty close. If you have a good connection, we can hear each other jam, and I record the tracks, mix them, and then what I want to do is pitch them and just try to get us work as TV commercials and so on and so forth, because why not make some money after spending on so much for modules, right? And I have connections and I work with TV and film, so it's like, why not extend that to all these talented beasts I see here? It's just like, it's such a joy. Plus we learn. And I think every time you jam with someone, you create something that would have never been created, period.
I really enjoy jamming with others because it does open up pathways. it gives me a chance to appreciate things I wouldn't have thought of doing and how to react to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can say, how do you do that? Or what does that sound? I've asked like, wait, what module is that? I like that. And then you get to kind of just feel like you're really a part of it. And doing it with people is more of that humanizing experience. You know, I crave it so much. I love collaborations. I love, you know, working with collaborators. So if you want to jump in and, you know, try a session out, just message me. We'll figure out a schedule. And you'd be surprised. It's like, because we see each other over Zoom, but we're hearing the high quality sound. And, you know, there's a metronome and there's stuff like that, but we end up just feeling each other and vibing each other out. We've created several hours of wonderful, surprisingly wonderful ambient and rhythmic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's so delightful. And there's some video clips of us, and there's one with Christian being like, that worked. And I'm like, this is so great. Christian's in Germany. I'm in New York. We have Balanced String in Seattle, in spring in Seattle. And the three of us from all these different parts of the globe were like creating a track live. So great. So great.
What's the best way for people to reach out to you? Through Instagram?
Instagram, hit me up at DJ CherishTheLuv. Just throw me a DM. I answer them all.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't bite unless you want. So great.
We'll probably be wrapping up relatively soon. I'm curious if anyone else has any other questions, or is there any topics you wanted to make sure we touched on before we finished up here?
I think, you know, I'm so happy and so fulfilled. I feel like, you know, I just wanted to come from the heart and talk about this all.
I appreciate how open you are. You're so open about the experiences you've gone through and what you're experimenting with and things like Instagram and stuff like that. I really appreciate that openness.
Thank you for being there and listening. And, you know, I hope that in the coming year, we all just keep flourishing and learning and, you know, teaching each other by like just connecting. Oh, you might have a plugin. Yeah. Okay, cool. You want to talk about that?
The Studio? Okay.
Oh, is it Studio? Yeah.
Let me find his screen and get him up here. Where is he hiding? There he is. Let me bring him forward and let's talk about this.
Mine was just a comment about, I think Christian wanted to talk about Earth Modular Society, which is wonderful. And so I'd love to give him an opportunity to do that. Mine was more of a comment for you and Jason that I'm looking at a space that I love, but I realized looking at your space and at Jason's space that it's missing something, and that's life in actual life, like a plant. To just bring a bit of the earth into the space. I love that. And I think I'm going to do that like today.
Do it today. And then get yourself a pair of Instruõ Scíon modules.
I put it on my wish list. I'm not allowing myself to buy anything in 2022, but 2021's not over. But yeah, because I want to try to dig into what I've got. But I love the plant in the corner. It really.
Oh, you've got a bit of feathered life living over your shoulder there.
Yeah, that's true. She's not always in here though when I'm working. Look, she does to my shirts. But I think Christian talking about EMS would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I'll get to. But it's funny you mentioned the connection because I have a couple of large windows that you can't see in the studio where we have the garden in the courtyard that we built as being a wildlife habitat, and quite often I get distracted in the most wonderful ways of just looking out and seeing birds hopping around and looking at the plants and stuff like that. So that's great fun.
Great.
Makes a difference.
Stu, when you go shopping, I want to see what you get.
Okay.
I want to see your plants.
I'll send you a picture. Yeah.
There you go. Share your plants.
And I'd love to jam with you too.
For sure.
Christian, you want to talk a little bit about Earth Modular Society?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I actually didn't want to take too much time of this. I just wanted to plug it in chat. But yeah, Earth Modular Society was the idea to get people together internationally, really just online, and create a space where it's easy to perform online, have some visitors, some listeners, and just be yourself. And even if it's your first stream with your first two modules or your first instrument, you can just go ahead and don't be judged, just stream and have fun and have a jam, basically. And so yeah, that exists. We have a Discord server. There's quite a lot of activity there. And it's just a nice community, and we do stream trains from time to time, so people can hop on and have a more consistent time frame, right? More like a performance. The regular streaming is more or less you hop on, you hop off whenever you like. But the stream train is more of a performance space where you say, I will do 20 minutes of performance, and then the next 20 minutes or the next half hour or whatever. So we plan to do the next one for New Year's Eve all around the world. So times are not fixed yet, but something around Europe time, 10 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the morning, which would be New Year's Eve in Hawaii roundabout. So that should cover a lot of the world already. And yeah, we will have the sign up ready soon and post it in other Discords and modular societies, and hope to see you there. Sign up if you want to perform first time. Come on, we will help you set up and get ready for performing. So don't be shy.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Maybe I'm going to do that for New Year's.
There you go. Something different.
So great. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think we're going to wrap up for today, but I really appreciate you sharing, playing for us, and sharing your cards. Are you going to publish those cards, or you think that's a very personal thing each person should do for themselves?
I can't keep it to myself. It's not fair. I will publish them.
Because so many of us have copies like of Eno's oblique strategies and things like that, but yours seem much more warm and connected than a lot of the other ones out there.
I think I need to share it too, because I think that more voices that are contemporary and brown skin and women and, just more variety, I think invites more people into our world. And I think it's important. More human. Yeah, exactly. I love this. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I'm going to throw in just like quick tips if you want to do this professionally. Please, you can definitely ask me for guidance and advice. First thing I would say is, if you think you're ready to do it professionally, join a PRO, a publishing rights organization. Start that process and start treating yourself like a professional, and imagine yourself doing TV commercials, shows, and so on and so forth, and you'll be surprised what you attract.
Yeah, if you set up the mechanism around you where you are professional, it attracts that energy. People can tell someone who's got their act together and is receptive to this sort of work. Yeah.
I have a lot of advice and tips for that, so definitely reach out to me if you want to know more.
Might even be a topic for another conversation down the road.
There you go.
Thanks again, everyone, for coming. It's particularly Cherish. It's so great to get a chance to talk to you even more. And I hope everyone has a wonderful set of holidays, and let's all look forward to a great 2022.
Yes, stay healthy, stay strong, stay creative, keep patching.
Yep. Thanks a lot.